Hey folks, Dr. Joe here. Glad you're with us today. Fun show today. We're going to talk about hormones today. Now, hormones are a little tricky. The science of hormones and endocrinology is changing all the time. So we're going to give you what we have. A lot of fun. Going to teach you a lot about how your body works. So you definitely want to stay tuned for this because it affects everybody. Now, if you're new to the show, the way this works is I talk for 24 minutes. You, whatever platform you're on a bunch of different platforms, you type in any health questions you might have. I then will, at the break, Heather will ask me the questions that you asked. I will answer them. Then we move on to another 24-minute segment, and then I answer more questions again. So this is an ideal opportunity for you to get some health questions answered that maybe you haven't gotten or don't know who to ask. So we want to help you with that. So we are ready to rock. Heather, if you're ready. Ready, and... Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. I am glad you're with us today. Today we're going to be talking about hormones. Now, hormones are complicated. There is no quick answer oftentimes when it comes to hormones, but there's a lot of things that you're doing that can adversely affect your hormones that you didn't even know you were doing. So we're going to cover that today. We're also going to talk about what to do about it. How do we try to get the hormones balanced? Because hormones are essential to every aspect of your life. From the time you're conceived to as you grow and your metabolism, your passions, your thought process, even every multicellular organism, plant or animal, uses hormones, earthworms and killer whales. I mean, everybody has hormones in their body, and the hormones control everything. Now, the word hormone comes from the Greek word hormon, which means to excite or to set in motion. So what hormones do is they're directors. They kind of tell the body, okay, do this, speed up, slow down, produce reproductive organs, produce energy, produce emotions. And they shape every aspect of your life. Like I said, from conception to death, new research is always coming out on hormones. So this isn't the end-all, be-all. Like we know basically how the spine works. We're still finding new things. Recently, I don't know, last year or so, but several years ago, we found a new taste bud in your tongue. So we're always finding new things out, and that's why it's so important to tune in to shows like this, because I do the research every single day. I research, and then I can report to you what the new research is so you can stay on top of the cutting-edge information on how to get well and stay well. Now, there's more than 80 identified human hormones. I say identified because I submit to you we're going to find more. We always do. And so we're going to talk about the ones that we know about. Each one of them has a distinctly different role. Each hormone is aimed at what's called a target cell. So this hormone affects this cell, and this hormone affects this cell, but they don't affect the other cells. They'll kind of wash right by them and say, I'm looking for this target cell. Boom, there it is. Now, there's hormones in the body that do good things, and sometimes they do bad things, but they're always doing something to make the body work. However, there's outside things that can affect the hormones, and they're called endocrine disrupting hormones. Going to cover that a little later too. So you might be exposing yourself to things that are adversely affecting your hormones, and you don't even know it. And when you stop doing those things, many of your health issues might resolve. So you're innocently hurting yourself. You're not doing it on purpose. I know you're not, but you need to know this, and that's why it's so important to listen today. So what a hormone does, it acts on a specific target cell. It changes the way it behaves to make it perform at a specific task. For example, the hormone adrenaline. You might have heard adrenaline gives you energy. Well, that causes the heart to beat faster, and the hormone, and so when it affects a cell, it makes the cell work more effectively or efficiently, or speeds it up. Gastrin, which is a hormone, makes your stomach secrete gastric acid, which then helps you digest certain foods. So these things don't happen on their own. The hormone is like the supervisor. The hormone says, okay, do this, do this, do this. So that's how those things work. Hormones exert their influences on very small concentrations. This is the key to everything we're going to teach you today. Very small amounts pack a wild punch. That's why endocrine disrupting hormones, hormones that mess with you, the chemicals that mess with your hormones, for example, BPA. You may have heard of that BPA or BPS. These are hormones that you might get in cooking pots. When you heat them, BPA might be released. BPA can also be found in canned goods. Now, even small amounts, phthalates, oftentimes found in perfume, very small amounts can have dangerous effects on your body. One of the many, many reasons I'm not a fan of commercial hormones or cleaners, anything that has a smell to it. many times has phthalates in it, which is an endocrine disrupting hormone. You just need a little tiny bit to have some real serious impacts on your body. I'm going to cover that later. Now, hormones are designed to stimulate and release other hormones. Some of them do that. Some exert effects on your body, whereas others act only on small, localized areas of the body. Some go throughout the whole body, some local. And I'm just letting you know that the hormones can be complicated. Now, hormones are classified into 4 categories. There's steroids, there's peptides, there's amino acid derivatives, and there's eicosanoids. Again, I'm not going to bore you with all the details because it can get a little crazy when you start talking about that. But specific molecules in your blood can trigger hormones. For example, mineral nutrients that serve as what's called a feedback mechanism. So let me explain a feedback mechanism to you. What happens is in a feedback mechanism is my body releases a hormone. The hormone does its job. It goes back to the part of the brain, many times the hypothalamus or the pituitary gland, and it says, okay, I just did my job. What do I do next? And then it says, oh, let's make more of that hormone. It's like less of that hormone. So it's called a negative feedback loop. My pituitary gland tells me to produce testosterone. Testosterone is produced. It goes up into the pituitary. Says, you got enough testosterone now, right? Yes, we do. Okay, stop production. That's a simple negative feedback loop. It's usually more complicated than that, but just so you know, that's how the whole thing works. Now, peptide hormones represent a wide variety of chemical messengers, including human growth hormone, insulin, melatonin, adrenaline and amine, prostaglandins are involved. Again, I'm not going to bore you with all those details as to all the scientific names for it. Specific molecules in the blood can trigger it. Stimulation by other hormones. One hormone releases something else, which causes another hormone to happen. And then stimulation from the nervous system as well. And this is one of the many, many important reasons why your nervous system has to work the best it possibly can. Because your nervous system controls everything. Without the brain telling the body what to do, you're dead, essentially. So that's why I can chop off an arm and you can live. I can't remove the brain and the spinal cord, you die instantly. Because the brain has to tell everything to do. And then the feedback goes up into the brain with the hormones too. So there's endocrine hormones, which are released directly into the blood. And there's exocrine, which then are released into a duct or a tube that go into the blood. Again, just semantic stuff. Just want to cover the basics here. So let's talk about some hormones and what they do. Now, your stomach produces, and your small intestine produce hormones called leptin and ghrelin. Now, ghrelin is released, and it goes into your hypothalamus, and it makes you feel hungry. Leptin is produced by your fat cells and by your stomach too, and it goes to the hypothalamus and says, I'm full. I have enough nutrients. Stop. That's how the normal function of the hormones work. So far, so good, right? I don't have enough food in my body. I've used up the food that I have. My body says, let's release some ghrelin. Let's make you hungry. I get hungry. I eat again. And then my body says that's enough food. It releases leptin to stop that process. So leptin and ghrelin, really important when it comes to nutrient absorption with eating habits, cravings, and weight loss. So as long as that's all working, that's great. But let's see where that can go wrong. So leptin is secreted from the fat cells, goes into the blood system, and acts on the brain to regulate food intake and energy expenditure. Okay, that's leptin. Leptin says, I'm hungry. When the fat mass falls, plasma leptin levels fall. So as I start to lose weight, and my fat isn't producing as much leptin, my brain says, hey, wait a minute, what happened? You better start eating more. So it stimulates my appetite, and I get to eat again. But when fat mass increases, leptin levels increase. I start producing so much leptin that it goes up to my brain, and my brain says, I don't believe you. You're giving me too many messages saying that you're full, and you can't be that full. So I'm going to resist you. I'm going to ignore that signal, and now you become leptin resistant. So if we eat too much food, we produce too much leptin. The leptin goes into the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus says, I'm not going to believe you, and then you want to eat more. And so I used to be overweight, so I understand how this process works. You can't stop eating. You know you're not supposed to, but you're still hungry. I get this way if my stomach is pushed up against my diaphragm. Now, you've heard me, if you're a regular listener, you know I've talked about this a lot. The stomach is supposed to sit below the diaphragm. If the stomach pushes up into the diaphragm, you might have acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating, digestive issues. And in many cases, we need to massage or adjust or pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm. It's a physical problem. It's not chemical. Had a patient the other day, and he did yoga, and he was a vegetarian, and he studied Ayurveda, and he couldn't figure out why he was having still these digestive problems and bloating and the gas. And I said, the reason is the problem is not chemical, it's physical. The stomach is physically pushed up against the diaphragm. So all the meditation and all the supplements, and I think those are all great things, isn't going to move the stomach back down away from the diaphragm. And so when I explained it to him, it made sense. He goes, oh, now I understand it, because I've been to all these different doctors. Nobody could tell me why. And that's what we always do in our office. We try to tell you why. I tell that story because when my stomach is up against my diaphragm, I can't stop eating. I know I'm full. My stomach hurts. It's so full, but I want to keep eating. And as soon as I get my stomach adjusted or pulled down away from the diaphragm, and this happens with a lot of patients, I feel full. I'm satisfied. So I think, and there's no research on this because nobody's going to fund this research, I think it's affecting my leptin production. And when I pull my stomach down, my leptin production normalizes, I think. I theorize, and then it goes up to my hypothalamus, says I'm full. So if we have a lot of this leptin being produced, the brain says, I'm not going to listen to you. I know you're lying to me because nobody can be that full all the time, and I'm going to continue to make you hungry. So this feedback mechanism, feedback loop of your fat cells in your brain can malfunction, and then the leptin receptors, leptin is a hormone, again, that makes you hungry, makes you full, lose their sensitivity, and you become leptin resistant. Same thing with type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is an insulin resistance. Remember, there's over 80 different hormones, leptin, ghrelin. Okay, we're talking about insulin now. When you eat sugar, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, anything that breaks down to a sugar, it goes into the body. The body says, we got a lot of sugar in the blood. We got to release something called insulin. So insulin's released from the pancreas. It's right below your stomach there. And it goes into the cells, and it acts like a key. It goes into the cell, it opens the cell up so that it allows glucose, sugar, into the cell to be used as fuel. That's what insulin does. Insulin is essentially a key that opens up the cell. You eat a lot of sugar. The body produces a lot of insulin. So the insulin keeps trying to open up the cell and let the sugar in. And the cell says, wait a minute, if I let any more sugar in, it's going to gunk up the works. I can't let any more sugar in. I got too much already. So insulin, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I'm going to resist you. Insulin resistance. And that's called type 2 diabetes. Pretty wild, huh? Now, we talk about receptor sites where the cells get activated by the hormones. If you eat a lot of saturated fat, meat, butter, cheese, yogurt, eggs, ice cream, pretty much animal products, saturated fat can clog up the receptor sites. So the hormones now can't get in there to open up the cell, in this case to allow sugar in, and so the cells can't function normally. So the number one cause of type 2 diabetes is not too much sugar. It's too much saturated fat. Saturated fat clogs up the cells, basically, and so the hormones are still floating around. They just can't get in because the gateway is clogged up with fat. So this is why when I have patients that are diabetic, I want them to go to a plant-based diet. In most cases, almost all cases, type 2 diabetes can be avoided. Most cases, it can be maintained or stabilized. And in some cases, it can be reversed. So type 2 diabetes is not a lifetime sentence like we used to think it was, because in most cases, you did it to yourself. Type 1 diabetes is a different story. Type 1 diabetes is your body's not producing insulin, not producing the hormone. And in that case, you need to take outside insulin. But in type 2 diabetes, and again, it's all about insulin, but two different ways the insulin is working, in most cases, you have control over it. That sentence alone is very enlightening. How many diabetics out there are like, well, I have to take insulin for the rest of my life, type 2. That's what the doctor said. Very seldom, I can't say never, but I've never seen it happen, have I ever seen a patient come in with type 2 diabetes and a doctor just explained what I explained to you in 3 minutes. and said, okay, so let's open up those receptor sites. Let's get you off the saturated fat. Let's bring down the insulin production. Let's get the cells absorbing insulin again. Never have I heard it. Now, I'm not saying no doctor has ever done it. I've never heard it. So I'm not going to argue with endocrinologists. I'm going to say, let's do my suggestions along with what you're doing. Let's see what happens. If I'm wrong, so what? I'm wrong. I blew it. Person ate well. They cut out saturated fat. Didn't help their diabetes. So what? They're still taking insulin. They still got the problem. If I'm right, which I usually am, then we can say, all right, now we got to talk to your endocrinologist and talk about altering your medication. I can't alter your medication. It's not my job. My job is try to get to the cause of your problems, and then hopefully the prescribing doctor can say, let's go ahead and work. And that's why I like working so closely with other doctors, because I'm not taught what they know. They're not taught what I know. And so a good doctor is going to work with other doctors and say, okay, let's put our minds together to see what we can do to get this patient well. An ignorant doctor, ignorant meaning they just don't understand, is going to argue and say, nah, that won't work. That's crazy. There's no downside to getting healthy. There's only upsides. So why wouldn't you do something that doesn't have any downsides, only has upsides? It's a good bet, right? Now, if you want to come see us, folks, in the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb. My team of doctors and I would love to be your doctors. Now, I'm not an endocrinologist. I don't claim to be an endocrinologist. I'm just talking about how hormones work and what we can do to help stabilize them. So if you want, and for anything, most of our patients come see us for pain. It's the number one reason we see pain. Chiropractic care, most effective, least expensive treatment for back pain. So we're really good at that. Then our team of doctors, we also include nutrition. We talk about the digestive system, working on the digestive system, supplements, food. So we try to cover everything we can without drugs and surgery to help you obtain and maintain good health. I want to work with your other doctors. I'm not saying they're wrong. They shouldn't say I'm wrong. Let's work together to try to get the best course of treatment that we can for you, your friends, and your family. So if you want to make an appointment, you can go right to our website right now, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. We can get you an appointment most likely this week. In the Atlanta area, Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb. Normally, the first visit in person is $940. That's exam, x-rays, consultation, first treatment, going over the x-rays on your follow-up visit, and a complete nutrition evaluation. The x-rays alone are going to cost you more than $300. We only charge $299 for that first visit. So we want to make it so that it's affordable so that you can come in and we can see if you are a candidate for care. Most people are. It's rare that we don't accept a patient, but we do. That's why we do the consultation, the exams, and the x-rays, to make sure that we're the best fit for you. So if you're serious about wanting to get well, drjoe.com. If you're ever in a car accident, folks, if the car's damaged, you're damaged. I've never seen it any other way. So make your appointment as soon as possible, drjoe.com. We can get you in right away. Now, what's going to happen if you're in a car accident is there's a lot of scammers out there. You tired of getting scammed? Yeah, it's pretty rough. Scammers are going to call you up and say, hey, this is such and such from your insurance company, from the other person's insurance company, from your doctor's office, and you need to go see this doctor and this lawyer. It's a scam. No one is ever going to call you and tell you to go see a doctor or a lawyer, ever. But you can call us, and we'd love to see you, drjoe.com, and let's get you treated as quickly as possible, because as soon as an injury occurs, whether it's car accident, sports injury, slip and fall, every day that goes by, more scar tissue forms, more inflammation occurs, the harder it is to stabilize. So the quicker you get to see us, the better, drjoe.com. So we talk about hormones today and things that you can do, things that you do to adversely affect it, and things you can do to work on it. And they're very important because other things that can affect endocrine is called the hormone system, is the endocrine system. Let's talk about some things. Genetics, congenital birth defects, mutations, missing or damaged chromosomes. That can affect hormones. That's a tough one. You might not have control over it, but you can have control over it in many cases for your offspring, for your children. So the things you're doing today can adversely affect your children's children's children. It's a line from a Moody Blues song, okay? And so you have to take care of yourself if you're going to have children. It's part of your responsibility as a human being. Because you can alter your DNA, you can alter your genetics, which can affect your children's hormone production or absorption or utilization, and they can have an adverse effect. And things like smoking, things like drinking, things like having a bad diet, things like exposing yourself to environmental toxins. All these things can have an effect not only on you, but on your children's children's children. Other things that affect hormones: diseases, infections, autoimmune diseases, allergic reactions, health conditions, stress of all kind. I know a while ago I did a test on myself, and we do a lot of testing on our patients, blood tests, saliva tests, and my cortisol levels were through the ceiling. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's supposed to be high in the morning and then drop off as the day goes on. Mine wasn't dropping off. So I got my test, and I said, okay, I got to do something about it. I didn't feel anything, but I was working really hard, and I was stressing out, so I said, I got to reset my body. And I looked at it, and I said, okay, this is a wake-up call for me. And I balanced it out, took another test, and my cortisol levels went to normal. So testing for these hormones can be very important, but there's different ways to test. For example, I can take a test. In fact, I did a test, use myself as an example. I did a test, and my testosterone levels were a little low, but my estrogen levels were a little high. Hormones, okay? Now, as a man, I don't produce estrogen. I do produce testosterone. I don't produce estrogen. My estrogen comes from my testosterone converting into estrogen. So I said, why is my testosterone converting into estrogen? There's an enzyme in my body called aromatase, and aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen. So I upped my intake of cruciferous vegetables. I even take a supplement for it. And it slowed down my aromatase production. So my testosterone stayed high and my estrogen levels went down. So just testing my testosterone would say your testosterone is low. Let's give you some testosterone. Well, that's one approach. It's not my favorite approach. But that wouldn't have solved the problem. The problem was I had too much aromatase, turning my testosterone into estrogen. So all I was going to do is fix that. So we can do a test. We do a test in our office called the Dutch test, the UTCH, Dutch test. And it's a urine test for men and women. And we can monitor your hormones, and not just your hormones, but where do they break down? Are they breaking down? Are they being passed out? Are they being recycled properly? What hormones are high? What can we do to bring down? Like, for example, my cortisol. And the Dutch test is a great test. And we can do it, if you're a patient, great, but we can even mail you the kit. And you can just do it, send it off to the lab, and then we can go over it with you. But the Dutch test is really powerful test for determining hormone issues and then balancing them. Maybe it's acne. Maybe it's liver issues. Maybe your liver enzymes are too high. Maybe you need glutathione to help your liver. Supplement-wise, we're going to talk about that coming up. But the minimum supplements I think everybody should be taking are Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. They're two powders. They taste great. I take a scoop of each. I take it every day, first thing in the morning. In the winter, I'll just take it with some coconut milk or almond milk. And in warmer months, I'd like to mix it with a frozen banana or some frozen berries and make like a smoothie out of it, make ice cream out of it, essentially. But I can't imagine why everyone isn't taking Super Greens and Essential Source. One of the many benefits is it's a great source of iodine. And iodine is necessary for thyroid hormones. How many of you are low in iodine? Most of you. And the only source of iodine most people get in this country is salt. We iodize the salt. Well, you're not supposed to take salt, but that's really the only way. Years ago, we realized people getting goiters if they weren't getting enough iodine, and so they said, what's the one condiment that's cheap that everybody uses with salt? They threw iodine in there. Good idea. Prevented some goiters, but you shouldn't be taking a lot of salt anyway. So that's why you need the iodine to make sure you can produce thyroid hormones, and thyroid hormones control metabolism, energy, fat burning. Thyroid hormones are hugely important. And many people have thyroid conditions because they just don't have enough iodine. Other people have thyroid conditions because they have heavy metal in their body. And we could do a hair sample for that to test if you have mercury and lead. And then if you do, and a lot of people do, we've got to detox it because that has an effect on the thyroid, which has an effect on the hormones. I told you it was a little complicated. All right, folks, if you have any questions, you can always send them to me through my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. If you want to make an appointment to come see us in the Atlanta area, we'd love to see you. We can do telemedicine. We can do virtual meetings if we need to, and you can call my staff, and we can get that set up for you as well. Please follow me on social media. I post every single day. You are going to get so much information on healthcare, absolutely free. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Follow us on social media at Dr. Joe Esposito, at Dr. Joe Esposito. And if you're a podcast junkie, go to your podcast service and type in Dr. Joe for the health of it. Dr. Joe for the health of it. Again, the website, drjoe.com. Folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Thanks for tuning in. Don't go anywhere, drjoe.com. Boom. All right. Was that too complicated?
I don't think so.
You followed it? Okay. Yeah. I know. I got excited. I want to make sure I don't get lost in it. So, all right. Any questions?
I don't have any right now.
Excellent. Good. I'm going to stretch my legs for a second. So, talk to the staff. Talk to the crew for a second. My leg was getting stiff. Talk to everybody. Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
No questions? Nobody has any questions?
Not yet.
Leg was falling asleep there. So.
Just a lot of people saying hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Good. You ready? All right. Reset my clock, please. Now you're ready. Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. Glad you're with us. What we're talking about today is hormones. And hormones do everything. Nothing happens unless a hormone somehow tells it to do it. There's over 80 different hormones in the human body that we know of so far. I'm sure we're going to discover more as time goes on. And so often, you're doing things that are adversely affecting your hormone production or your hormone utilization. And so I want to cover now the things that you're doing, maybe doing, that are adversely affecting your hormones and what we need to do to fix it. Because you're doing it innocently. You know, famous man once said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You're doing things, and you don't even know it. So today is a total enlightening that's going to happen. I want to talk now about endocrine-disrupting chemicals, also called endocrine-disrupting hormones. Hormone disruption can affect you in so many different ways, from decreased fertility, impaired immune response, neurological changes, your ability to deal with stress. So I've said this many times. Diet and lifestyle choices are important to keep your hormones in check, but you can do that. We'll talk about what to do as proactive, but I also want you to avoid these endocrine-disrupting chemicals because that's extremely important. Now, endocrine-disrupting chemicals mimic natural hormone binding on target cells. So you would produce a hormone, testosterone, estrogen, insulin, thyroid, and it goes out into the body, and it binds, it hooks in, or like a port, like in the old Star Trek shows where the ship would dock into another ship. That port is where that hormone activates the cell. These endocrine-disrupting chemicals can go in and target those receptor sites, those docking stations. So binding occurs when a hormone attaches to the cell receptor, a part of the cell that's designed to respond to that particular hormone, and the endocrine-disrupting chemicals start the same process as the natural hormone would. So other endocrine-disrupting chemicals can block natural hormone binding and prevent them from getting in. So it can kind of clog up the port so some can't get in, your natural hormones, or it can act like that hormone. We talk about estrogen receptor sites. There are estrogen-like chemicals that can get into the cell and act like estrogen. And so the cell says, oh, estrogen just told me to make new cells, to put on fat, to get bigger. And if you keep doing this, messing with the natural hormones, it becomes a problem. It can interfere with the production, storage, and release of natural hormones in the body. It can greatly affect the function of every cell in the body. So these endocrine-disrupting hormones, you're being exposed to them every single day. I am, you are, we all are. In small amounts, the body can handle it. In large amounts, it can become detrimental and even deadly. So endocrine-disrupting chemicals, again, similar structure, let's say about estrogen, they're oftentimes found in plastic products. You combine that with toxic food, lack of exercise, low vitamin D levels, and it can contribute to all sorts of things like early puberty to cancer. Now, if you notice, kids are growing up faster, and I sound like the old man when I say this, when I was your age, but kids are maturing a lot faster, about 6 months a generation. Women are starting their menstrual cycle. That's kind of how they base it. And a lot of that has to do with endocrine-disrupting chemicals. So if you're exposing yourself to plastics, what do you mean by that? Well, you shouldn't use a microwave ever. But if you do use a microwave, never, under any circumstances, put plastic in the microwave, including plastic wrap. You might say, I'm going to cover my dish and I'm going to put it in a microwave. It's in glass, but I'm using plastic to cover it. Plastic has these endocrine disrupting chemicals in it. If you eat out of styrofoam containers, you're going to scrape the fork along the styrofoam container. That's going to give you endocrine disrupting, estrogen disrupting chemicals. If you use styrofoam cups, if you have plastic shower curtains, if something smells like plastic, new shower curtains, purses, new car smell, these are all endocrine disrupting hormones. They act like estrogen. They get into the body and tell the body, start doing something. Now, you might have X amount of estrogen to do its job. If you're eating out of styrofoam cups every day, you're putting a ton of this estrogen-like chemical into the body, and the cells are going, wow, that's a lot of estrogen. I better start growing. And most of us are done growing up, so we start to grow out. So a lot of the weight gain you're seeing is because of endocrine disrupting chemicals. The precocious puberty, the early puberty that we're seeing in boys and girls, a lot of it has to do with these hormones that get into the body and say, hey, that's a lot of estrogen. I better start growing again. And it can speed up your risk of cancer and other diseases. So be careful with that. And as we get older, our hormones can change too. So you think about imbalanced hormones. How about hot flashes? I hear this a lot. That's just one of the many possible effects. So there was a study that was published recently. Suggests that typically thought of age-related cognitive decline, starting to get dementia and getting older and forgetting things, could actually be a cause of estrogen deficiency. So you might be taking chemicals in the body that's blocking up the estrogen receptor sites, so your body can't use estrogen. And so now the brain says, I need this estrogen to grow, and the brain starts to shrink. So there's a lot of things you want to start avoiding in your life. And like if you buy a plastic shower curtain, I'm not saying don't use a plastic shower curtain. I use one. But what you can do very simply is throw it in a washing machine and wash it first. Take it out, then hang it. Years ago, I keep my cars for a long time, but whenever it was 12, 13 years ago, last time I got a new car, it had new car smell. So what did I do? I left it outside and left the windows open as much as I possibly could. I drove it with the windows open until the new car smell started to dissipate, because those are all endocrine disrupting chemicals. So you have these 80-plus hormones in a body. They're doing their thing. You're putting these outside chemicals in. Some act like that chemical or the hormone. Some block up from absorbing the chemical, the hormone. So what we're trying to do here, if you start having cognitive decline, estrogen actually restores brain health. Now, maintaining hormone balance as you age does not mean you should be using hormone replacement therapy. I am not a fan of hormone replacement therapy. I say let's try everything else first. If you need it, then we can do it. I'll tell my story again. I had a doctor test me, and again, my testosterone was low, and this guy wasn't as smart as he should have been. And he said, well, Joe, your testosterone is low. I'm going to put you on testosterone. And I said, I'm going to try it. Let me see what it's like, because I always talk about it, but I'm my own personal guinea pig. So I took half doses. You inject it yourself. You inject it in your butt. And I took half doses, and I spread it out over twice the amount of time. So I took 3 doses in 6 weeks when I should have taken essentially 6 doses in 3 weeks. So I went back and had my blood test. I felt great. Lots of energy, clear thought. I had my blood tested. My testosterone levels were too high to count. The doctor said, you have to stop immediately. You're way too high in your testosterone levels. And I said, but doc, I only took half the dose in over twice the amount of time. He said, this is very dangerous. Now, most people don't get tested that quick. I got tested right away. I want to see what happened. I stopped taking it. My testosterone level then dropped. It plummeted because my brain said, you've got tons of testosterone. I'm going to stop making my own testosterone. And then my body normalized because it was early on. It didn't do a lot of damage. But the testicles in men, the ovaries in women, produce the sex hormones, but the adrenal glands are the backup organs. They're kind of like, if these don't work, we have the adrenal glands. Now, as you get older, testicles and ovaries start to not work as well as they should. But the adrenal glands, you can feed the adrenal glands and keep them healthy. I take something called Dr. Joe's Adrenal Support. It's on the website, drjoe.com. I take it every single day because my adrenal glands produce a lot of hormones. And they also produce anti-inflammatories, sex hormones, energy hormones. And so I want to make sure my adrenal glands are working the best they possibly can. Now, the thing with supplements is this. If you take them, it's not going to be like I have a headache, I take an aspirin, the headache goes away. It takes time to regenerate and kind of jumpstart the body. So that's why I recommend people when they come to see me, or if they just want consultation, we can do remote consultations. I always say, do what I say for 60 days. Give everything a chance to kick in. And after 60 days, we can reevaluate and see how you're doing. And I've been coaching now, between my schooling and I've been in practice about 38 years, 2 years when I was doing my seeing patients as a student. So let's say 40 years. I've never had anyone regret making changes to their lifestyle, nutritionally, supplement-wise. No one's ever regretted it. Some people say, well, Dr. Joe, I took Supergreen's an essential source, and I felt a little queasy. Well, your body just wasn't used to that much nutrition in one shot. So you go a little slower and build it up. But no one's ever regretted doing it. And so it's exciting to have that kind of track record. And so if you'd like to come see us, whether for nutrition, chiropractic care, digestive issues, pain management, car accidents, go to my website, drjoe.com, and book an appointment. We can get you in this week. We have appointments available in all 4 clinics every week. And we'll get you in, and let's do an evaluation. Let's try to get to the cause of your healthcare problems, not just treat the symptoms. Let's do everything we can to get you functioning at a higher, more effective level. So if you want to do that, drjoe.com. We'd love to see you. Normally, the first visit is $940. We've reduced that for my listeners, you guys, to $299. That's an exam, x-rays, consultation, first treatment, going over the x-rays, complete nutrition evaluation. We want to be your doctors. How cool would it be to get to the cause of your healthcare problems and not just treat the symptoms? I think that'd be pretty cool. So drjoe.com, we'd love to see you. You can book it right online. If you have any questions, call us. We accept people with all insurances. It depends what your insurance covers, but we accept you. Car accidents, sports injuries. A lot of our patients don't have insurance, or their deductibles are stupid high. And so we have cash plans available, payment plans available. It's very affordable. You'll be shocked to find out how inexpensive it is to get well and stay well. So drjoe.com. So we were saying that I don't recommend hormone replacement therapy if we can avoid that. So I want to address your food choices. That should be your first step. Tweaking your diet is not enough. We may have some supplements we can recommend. Chiropractic care, of course, because if you have a pinched nerve, let's say going to my adrenal glands, my thyroid, my spleen, my pancreas, open up the nerve supply. Nobody talks about that, and it's so important. If I have a pinched nerve going to my pancreas cannot work at 100% of its capabilities. Maybe it's 99%, maybe it's 40%. So we want to always open up the nerve supply to all the organs. That's a good baseline. Then we want to do a nutrition and food evaluation. Then we want to recommend supplements if necessary. Then we want to fix the digestive system. And once we do all that, if we still can't get to the cause, then we can talk about bioidentical hormones. There's cream. You do yam cream and things like that. Some of it's even over the counter. But I don't like to mess with that right away. I want to try to get to the cause of the problem if we can. It's way less expensive, too, to do it that way, too. So avoiding processed foods, one of the best strategies to try to get natural hormone function back to normal. Refined foods. What's a refined food? It's not like it was when it was picked from the ground. So if I look at okra, cabbage, carrots, broccoli, yeah, I can heat it. It's not exactly like it came from the ground, but it's still in the same form, basically, that it was picked from the ground. When we start looking at potato chips, French fries, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, processed packaged foods, that's when you start really messing with your hormones. And refined carbohydrates and the bad fats, and gosh, I wish you could just get across, folks, stop using liquid vegetable oils. If you have to use an oil, extra virgin organic olive oil, extra virgin coconut oil, avocado oil, that's pretty much it. But soybean oil, vegetable oils, cottonseed, who eats cotton seeds? And some reason we drink their oil. Corn oil, stop using those. I believe it's contributing dramatically to the obesity epidemic in this country, to the speeding up of the aging process, and it's blowing out your hormones. So stay away from those bad fats. They can elevate your estrogen levels to almost twice of what they should be. Now, a major cause of menopausal symptoms is probably from diet. If we look at countries that eat pure diets, many times when women go through menopause, they just segue into menopause. It's done. That's it. But when you start doing these oils and these processed foods and monosodium glutamate and breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, you're just destroying your body's ability to function at a normal level. So I know you're thinking to yourself, Dr. Joe, that's my whole life. That's all I ever eat. I understand that. And I also understand you have choice. You have freedom of choice. You can decide what direction you want to go in with your health care. But why wouldn't you want to do everything you could to be as healthy as possible, less expensive than anything else, hopefully extend your life? I had somebody send me a message the other day on a website, drjoe.com, and they said, Dr. Joe, do people that eat vegetarian diet live longer? And I said, the studies I've seen show that if you just give up dairy, nothing else, just dairy, you can increase your life expectancy by 8 years on average. If you go full plant-based, which is where I want you to be, 11 years, 11 quality years added to your life simply by not doing bad things. And the nice part about this is it's passive. You don't have to do a lot. You have to not do a lot. Don't use chemicals. Don't use hairsprays. Don't use scented deodorants. Don't use toothpastes that have chemicals in it, like sodium lauryl sulfate. You have to not do it. I can't make it easier than not doing it, can I? So if you don't do these things, that's where it kicks in. And processed foods also, like I said, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified foods, trans fats, salts, chemicals, additives. Here's my rule. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. It's just that simple. Look at the label, and if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. Better yet, it shouldn't have a label. Apples, peaches, pears, bananas, pineapples, kiwis, mangoes, star fruit, broccoli, they don't have labels. So if it doesn't have a label, even better. If it does have a label, make sure you can pronounce everything. Consuming a diet rich in organic foods is going to be the best, but at least whole foods, as close to nature as possible. High quality of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. That will be avocados, nuts, seeds. I did a show the other day about secrets about losing weight. And one of them is cut out the bad food, of course. Get the bad food out of the house. And eat more things like nuts and avocados for good fats. But don't eat a lot of them. Because it takes 20 minutes to get the message from your stomach to your brain. So my trick is I'll have 2 or 3 handfuls of nuts. I love cashews, pistachios. And I'll have 2, if I'm really crazy, 3 handfuls. And then I have to stop. And every time I do this, I'm right. I'm hungry. I want to eat something now. I want satisfaction now. That's how we are as humans. So I'll eat a handful of 2, maybe 3 of nuts. And then I'll wait 15, 20 minutes. I always forget that I was hungry because I feel full. It takes 20 minutes for the stomach to release the leptin. We talked about that earlier. Leptin goes into the blood, goes into the hypothalamus, and says you're full. So it takes me 20 minutes. It takes you 20 minutes. So eat a little bit and stop. And then in 20 minutes, if you're still hungry, eat more. But if you're eating something that's high in fat and protein, like avocados or nuts, the chances are very high that you're going to be full in 20 minutes. And fat soluble is really important. You don't want to lower your cholesterol too low. One of the problems I see with hormones is patients that are on medication to lower their cholesterol. Now, the studies show on cholesterol, 99 out of 100 people can maintain normal cholesterol function strictly with diet. 1 out of 100 have genetically high cholesterol, and they do well with medication. The other patients, we want to keep the cholesterol there because the hormones, many of them are made from cholesterol. And if you drop your cholesterol too low, you don't have the raw materials to build the hormones. And so if you do have a cholesterol issue, this is not a cholesterol show, go to my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com, and type the word cholesterol in the search bar. And listen to the show we did on natural ways to manage cholesterol. I'm not saying come off your medication. I'm saying let's get you well enough so you don't need the medication. Very different approach in healthcare, isn't it? Never heard that before, have you? We want to get to the cause of the problem, not just treat the symptoms. So, as a general rule, fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, and K, are beneficial for production of sex hormone. So, eating more organic vegetables. Fermented foods are great. Fermented cabbages like kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh, which is fermented soy, is great. Dark green leafy vegetables loaded with magnesium, and that facilitates your sex hormone production. Grains, try to avoid the grains because it's essentially just sugar. Now, there are some that are better than others. Wheat, not a good choice. I always say wheat and dairy products should come out of everybody's diet because dairy products many times they're given growth hormones to the cows. It ends up in the milk, and you're taking it. You're disrupting your hormone system by eating animal products. Because even organic meat, the cows have hormones in them, just like we do. Okay, if you're a functioning animal, you have hormones, and so you're messing with your own natural production by taking it in from an outside source. So I don't recommend eating animal products, but if you do, they should be organic. But don't do it. Avoid sugar. Fresh fruit is going to be the best. Fruit juice, not a good thing. Fruit juice is like drinking sugar water. So eating a whole orange is going to give you fiber and other nutrients to push the sugar through the colon, give you a slow release. But too much sugar can mess with your hormones. Alcohol consumption. One of the things that alcohol does when it comes to the hormone system is it slows down your production of testosterone. Now, testosterone, you think about, well, it's your sex drive hormone, makes you frisky. It also builds your muscle mass, your biceps, your triceps, your gluteus. But your heart's a muscle. So is your intestines, so is your sex organs, so your blood vessels. And so if you're lowering your testosterone level, it's going to drop as you get older anyway, that's going to affect all these important internal organs. And alcohol just blows out your testosterone. So please avoid that at all costs. Make sure you're eating high-quality foods like fruits and vegetables, nuts, and seeds. If you don't know what to eat, go to my website, drjoe.com, and type in, so what can I eat? Actually, let's back up a little bit. First, type in 7 Deadly Sins of Nutrition. That was a lecture I did out in California. Listen to the foods I want you to cut back or cut out of your diet. The 7 Deadly Sins, if you're regular, say it with me: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. Now, if you're new to the show, you're thinking, but Dr. Joe, that's my whole diet. All I eat is alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. How am I going to survive? Then you listen to the show called So What Can I Eat? And there we tell you what you can eat. It's very simple. It's free. The website has between 3,000 and 4,000 hours of podcasts on it. Absolutely my gift to you. So go to website, drjoe.com, type in what you're looking for: cholesterol, high blood pressure, men's health issues, women's health issues. We do a show on the Food Sex Connection. There's tons of hours there. Search it, listen to it, read the blogs that I've written on it. And then if you still have questions, send me the questions through the website. I am happy to answer your questions for you. But starting point, 7 Deadly Sins of Nutrition, So What Can I Eat? Minimum supplements I would recommend would be Super Greens and Essential Source. Now, I take nitric oxide, opens up my blood vessels, increases circulation to my brain, my heart, my sex organs. I take vitamin D, so important for so many different functions in the body. I take adrenal support. I take B-complex. I take omega-3s. Folks, I can't stress enough the importance of omega-3s. If you have dry skin, other skin issues, joint pain, fatigue, insomnia, brain fog, many times it's an omega-3 deficiency. And omega-3s are essential fatty acids. You have to get them from an outside source. So I customize a supplement protocol for myself. I'd love to do the same for you. So if you want to become a patient, we can check the nervous system, digestive system, diet, drjoe.com. In the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge, and West Cobb. If you're not in the Atlanta area, or if you can't get to see us in person, we can do telemedicine. We can do a virtual meeting, and we can do it on Zoom or meetings or whatever it is. And we can set up a time to do that as well, and we can do a consultation for you there as well. But we want to get you well, and we want to keep you well. So, folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Again, drjoe.com. Follow me on social media, at Dr. Joe Esposito, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We post every single day. You will get so much information just by following us on social media. So do that. If you're a podcast junkie, go to your podcast service and type in Dr. Joe for the health of it. Dr. Joe for the health of it. We post at least 2 podcasts a week, many times more, and we have hundreds of hours there as well. But the website is really a great source of information, drjoe.com. But the best thing you can do is make an appointment to come see us. All the supplements we talked about are on the website. We can ship them the next day, business day. If you want to come pick them up, save you some driving, save you some postage. But we'll do everything we can to try to get you well and keep you well. My team of doctors are here to help you. So once again, drjoe.com. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Catch you next time. So much more I didn't cover. All right, what do you got?
I've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
One of our viewers wants to know, do weight loss shots interfere with hormones?
Yes. Yes, they make you feel full, but they also cause serious damage, too. A new thing that we're seeing now is it Ozempic? I think it is. Anyway, it's a medication they give people for diabetes, and it helps you lose weight. One of the side effects is you lose weight because you cuts out your hunger. And so a lot of people are doing it for quick weight loss. However, very, very serious damage can occur to your endocrine system, so I don't recommend it. So I'm not a fan of weight loss shots. If you listen to the show we did last week, I talked about thylakoids. Thylakoids act like the weight loss drugs. And what thylakoids do is they bind to your enzymes that break down fat, your lipase. And so it prevents the lipase from breaking down the fat until later on in your small intestine. And so you have receptors in your small intestine further down that say, oh my gosh, you still have fat available way down here? Well, if that's the case, we're going to slow down your ghrelin production, increase your leptin production so you don't get hungry. And so where do you get thylakoids from? Green leafy vegetables. Okay, Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source. That's why so many people tell me when they take Super Greens and Essential Source, it curbs their appetite. It gives the brain the nutrients that it needs, and the thylakoids can help block the fat absorption until later on down the colon, and there the body says, I got fat all the way down here, I don't have to eat as much. So I'm not a fan of the weight loss shots. What I would recommend is we do something called the 21-day cleanse. And the 21-day cleanse jumpstart program is amazing for weight loss. It helps you lose weight, but way more important than that, it resets the hypothalamus so you're not as hungry and the cravings go away. So you can do that 21-day cleanse. Just go to my website. You can catch it there. So, what else?
One of our viewers says she has PCOS and terrible brain fog to go along with it. She says she takes myo-inositol, D3 with K2, magnesium glycinate, zinc, and Shatavari.
Don't know what that one is.
She just wants to know if there's anything else she can be doing.
Absolutely. Yes, there's a lot more you can do. First of all, you got to check the digestive system because your stomach's main job is to take proteins, whether that protein comes from a carrot or a steak, unravel it and chop it into something called amino acids. The amino acid tryptophan becomes serotonin in the brain, tyrosine becomes dopamine, glutamine becomes GABA. So what happens is when you're breaking proteins into amino acids, it produces neurotransmitters, and that helps clear up the brain fog. So all the supplements in the world, if the problem is physical, aren't going to solve the problem. They're good. Don't stop taking them. But we need to jumpstart that. And so you might want to come see us so we can do a whole evaluation on it. Let's check your digestive system. Let's check your nervous system. Let's do a nutrition evaluation. What you're taking is fine, but I would say add Super Greens, add Essential Source, nitric oxide to increase circulation if you have normal blood pressure. We talked about vitamin D. You're taking that already. Omega-3 fatty acids, vital for brain function and brain fog. I'm going to do a show coming up on long COVID. I've been holding off on it, but I put it together this week, and I'm going to do a show on long COVID because one of the side effects is brain fog, and that's coming up. But coming to see us with your condition would be the best thing you can do. So just go to website drjoe.com. You can book it right now if you want to. What else?
That's all.
That's all. You guys rock. Awesome. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Share it on all your platforms if you would, folks. I do appreciate that. If you're listening live, type in #live because the bots know that you're listening live. If you're listening to this on a recording, just put in #replay, and then the bots will find us that way as well. I do appreciate you doing that for me. Any questions, make an appointment, drjoe.com. Folks, I look forward to seeing you very soon.